Hello, Taekookers. Welcome back to my fictional world. Don't forget to subscribe. Taeyang went to his locker for exchanging books when he felt arms around his waist from behind, causing him to lightly smile. Hey, babes, the voice whispered in his ears. Taeyang turned around his face, his boyfriend, looking up at him, his boyfriend being an inch taller than him. Hey, Kai, Taeyang said, getting on his toes, giving a peck on his lips. They walked down the hall hand in hand. Taeyang wasn't so popular, nor he was a loser in the college. He was more like a neutral boy. On the other hand, Kai was pretty popular. He played football, but not at the moment due to the season being over. The halls became empty and everyone was in their classes. Kai insisted talking before the class even though Taeyang told him he didn't want to be late for the class. Taeyang, okay, I have to go to the class, he said, smiling a little, and walked towards his class. But Kai held his hand, gripping on it tight. Kai, I want to talk to you. We have a minute. He huffed. His grip on Taeyang's wrist was tight and hurtful. Taeyang didn't even complain, cause Kai doesn't like it when he complains. Taeyang, okay, he only stuttered, being scared, and Kai knew that. Kai seems to be sense his fear in Taeyang. Kai, come on, we are gonna cut the class for the rest of the day. He pulled Taeyang down the hall, way out of the college. They went to the parking lot, where Taeyang saw a boy leaning against his motorcycle, busy with his phone. Kai must not have seen him, cause he slammed Taeyang against the side of his car. Kai, what's your problem today? Wouldn't you talk to me before the class? He snapped. Taeyang, Kai, I just don't want to be late. I love to talk to you. He tried not to whimper, but he did. Yeah, okay. Kai's grips around Taeyang's wrist tightened. He looked to the left towards the small lines of trees, then looked back at Taeyang, raising his hands. Taeyang wanted to close his eyes to flinch but wasn't fast enough. Kai's hands come down across his face with a loud smack of Taeyang's cheeks. Taeyang's eyes filled with tears and he looked up at Kai holding his cheeks. Kai's hand flew up, wrapping around Taeyang's throat, squeezing it tightly, though still allowing him to breathe. Taeyang's face grew red, covered with tears. Kai's sentence stops when he looked at something behind Taeyang. He must have seen that guy. The guy was well known, but not for good reason. Kai's hand left Taeyang's throat and he glared at Taeyang. Let's go, get in the car. Kai commented. Taeyang cowered away and walked to the passenger side. Taeyang noticed that boy gaze followed him with no such expressions or emotion on his face. Taeyang was sitting in Kai's car as he drove down the road, his one hand left steering wheel and tightly gripped on Taeyang's thigh. It hurted, but Taeyang was too scared to say anything. They were on the highway, now just driving, not having a particular destination. I love you, Taeyang, Kai said, almost commanding. Taeyang didn't say anything and he just made Kai's anger rise more. Kai's grip on Taeyang's thigh tightened and he slammed his foot on the accelerator. Taeyang started shaking, having an irrational fear of car accident. Kai slowed down. Taeyang's eyes covered in tears and he didn't know what to do. Please stop, Taeyang shouted. Tell me, do you love me? Kai's voice sounded calm, not worried at all. The speed was now above 130 and Taeyang couldn't stop shaking. I love you, now stop, please stop. Love you, Kai. Taeyang was sobbing. Kai was darting around cars and not slowing down at all. I could crash, as you know. He yanked the wheel and rolled go off and ran into a tree, hit another car. We could die together, Kai said, smirking. Taeyang's eyes widened. He knows Kai was always crazy. Taeyang had to have been with how possessive he acts around him. Please, I want to go home. Let's go. We can do whatever you want. I want to be with you and alive. We also have so much to do together, Taeyang said, crying and being a sobbing mess. Kai didn't say anything, though his foot let up. His grip on Taeyang's thigh never loosened. He didn't take Taeyang home until late at night. When Taeyang reached home, his mom was at the door asking where have you been and why. Taeyang, I'm sorry mom, I didn't feel good, so Kai took me to his house and took care of me. He lied, hoping she would see through it. But his mom sighed and said, are you feeling better now? I'm glad you have someone that takes care of you. like that, she said and kissed his son's forehead. Taehyung, I'm okay now. I'm just gonna get some sleep. Taehyung's mom. Okay, let me know if you feel sick or something. With that, Taehyung walked up to his room and after changing into his joggers and t-shirt, he curled into a ball under the blanket. He cried until his head started pounding, thinking what the hell have happened today with him. Next morning, Taehyung walked out of his house with his backpack over his shoulders, only to see Kai standing in front of his house, waiting for him. Taehyung got inside Kai's car and said nothing. Kai grabbed his hand and held it as a middle console between them. The ride to college was silent. Nor Taehyung nor Kai said anything. They walked through the halls, hand in hand, but once they got in Taehyung's class, Kai swung in front of Taehyung and said, I love you, and he leaned a kiss. Taehyung walked into his class noticing that boy from the parking lot, and for a surprise, he was already looking at Taehyung. Taehyung shrugged and then sat in his seat and concentrated on the class as the teacher began. In the middle of the class, Taehyung felt a tap hitting his elbow. He turned and saw that boy, handing him a note. You don't know me, but I saw you. I know what he does. Meet me behind the school at the start of lunch. JK. Taehyung glanced at him back, and his look was focused on whatever he was doing in his book. Taehyung got nervous thinking what this guy want. How would I sneak away from Kai? It was lunchtime and Taehyung normally walked in where he usually meets Kai. He sat there for a few minutes waiting for Kai. Then, Taehyung's point of view. I had to think of something and quickly. I grabbed my phone and texted Kai. I will be late, gotta talk to the teacher. Taehyung's phone quickly buzzed back. Kai, what teacher? Taehyung panicked and said the name of the teacher was teaching before lunch. Taehyung was shaking as he waited for Kai to text back, but he didn't. Taehyung just ignored it and walked to the door, going behind the school. There he saw that boy leaning against the school wall. When he saw Taehyung, he turned and looked at him. What if someone finds I'm here? Taehyung erased that thought from his head and walked towards him. JK, the boy said, holding out his hand. Taehyung saw his eyes were red, bloodshot. Taehyung brought up his hand to shake with his hand, but he noticed it was already trembling. Taehyung, he answered nervously. JK, I saw what happened in the parking lot. Do you not look in the mirror? Taehyung furrowed his eyebrows, not understanding what he meant. JK grabbed his phone, opening the front camera. He handed it to Taehyung and gestured him to his neck. Taehyung finally saw what JK meant. There were bruises all over his neck, made by Kai's hand. Taehyung gave back the phone to JK and looked down. What do you want? Tae asked slowly. To know why you stay with him and why does he that to you? JK answered. And to know if you need any help, he added. Taehyung knew JK around college. He was more of a bad boy and really don't care about anyone, but only himself. Though he wanted to help, Taehyung went against everything that he have heard about him. Taehyung, he loves me, he sometimes doesn't like what I do, he whispered. If he loved you, he would never think of laying a hand on you or hurting you. He wouldn't do what he does to you. JK's voice stayed the same, not fluttering at all. What else he has done? He asked Frood. Taehyung's mind flashed to the car accident yesterday. He also thought about other accidents that didn't realize how bad they were until now. It's been almost 2 years that Taehyung was in relationship with Kai. Their families were friends, so as they were. Taehyung always admired Kai since childhood, knowing that Kai was a little bit moody and picky at times, but still he confessed his love. At first their relationship was almost normal until Taehyung realized Kai's madness and possessiveness was not normal at all. Taehyung's point of view. One time, Kai held a knife to his wrist and said he would slit them right there if he didn't stay the night with him. Once he held my head under the water and only let me up before I lost consciousness. I woke up in the hospital and he said I fell asleep on the tub, but I didn't argue back. There's a lot of stories, but one of that Taehyung dreamed to remember was when Kai beat him until he let him sleep with him. That's how it always goes now. If Kai wants it, then let him have it, whatever he himself wanted or not. Taehyung, he snapped out of his thought when he heard JK calling his name. Too much, Taehyung answered, being done with his relationship with Kai. Then he just broke in tears, his knee buckled, and fell on the ground sobbing. JK didn't waste a second and snaked his hands around Taehyung and held him. This guy was a stranger or someone Taehyung never talked to before, but today he was the only one comforting him. Do you need help? JK said, pulling Taehyung's chin up so that he can look into his eyes. Yes, I need help to get away from him. Please help me. Taehyung continued crying, holding on JK for his life. JK nodded and asked Taehyung to go back to the class as the lunch was already over. The three classes went by faster than Taehyung wanted, and he did his best to avoid Kai all day long. Taehyung walked out of his class, and there stood Kai waiting for him. Where the hell have you been? Kai whispered yells, so only Taehyung could hear. Kai threaded his hand in Taehyung's and held it too tightly. Taehyung cried out, but clamped his mouth shut so wouldn't cause any attention. Kai yanked him through the hall and to the parking lot, forcefully putting him into the passenger seat of his car. Kai was stronger than Taehyung, and it wasn't something Taehyung could easily get out of. When Kai was dragging Taehyung at the parking lot, Taehyung saw JK was busy on his phone walking to his bike. Please help me, JK, Taehyung screamed internally. Kai, why were you avoiding me? He yelled. They were at Kai's house. His parents gone out of the town for few days. Taehyung, I wasn't. I just didn't feel good, so I hurried to my class, so I couldn't sit down and rest. Taehyung found himself using the lie of being sick again. Why do you lie to me? Kai slapped him once in his face, making him fall and land on his bed. Taehyung sobbed, not being able to answer his question. He must have hit on Taehyung's nose, cause the smell of metal filled his sentence and he felt the blood dripping down his nose. Please, Kai. Taehyung grabbed his hand to be comforting and loving. For what, please? To let you lie to me? Kai said, showing Taehyung, causing him to smack his back in the frame of his bed. Taehyung knew that a breeze will appear. Get in the bed, Kai commented. Taehyung shook as he stood up and lay on the bed. Kai laid next to him and wrapped his hand around Taehyung's throat, the bruise from the other day still there, making the pressure to hurt more. Stop lying to me. Kai pulled Taehyung's head forward with his hand around his throat and forced him into a kiss. Kiss back, he snapped. There wasn't nothing else for Taehyung to do except to obey him. The forced cuddles soon made Taehyung rest in his arms. Though Taehyung wished he didn't want to, he wanted to be in his bed in his own room. Kai took Taehyung's phone and messaged his mom asking if Taehyung could stay the night at his house, making it sound like Taehyung was the one asking for. Taehyung prayed that his mom would say no, but when he saw his mom's reply, his heart sank. I don't care, have fun, be safe. Taehyung shut his eyes, forcing himself to sleep. Taehyung woke up with Kai throwing clothes at him. Wear this and keep the hood up. He threw a pair of his joggers and a sweater at Taehyung. Taehyung's wrist has bruises from his hand around them. He was sure the next one was bad as well. Then they left for the college. Taehyung didn't even get to eat breakfast, so he was hungry all day till lunch. Though in first hour Taehyung was secretly excited to meet JK. JK walked in and sat right next to him. Hey, he said, smiling at Taehyung. Hi, Taehyung only mumbled, trying to force the blush on his cheeks disappear. It did just when Taehyung looked at his phone, seeing a text from Kai. Leave the class now and meet me at the washroom. Taehyung raised his hand, asking to leave, and the teacher nodded. Taehyung shrugged as he walked down the hallway, entering the washroom. As he entered, he saw Kai was leaning against the sink, snapping his head to look at Taehyung once he walked in. Hey Kai. Before Taehyung could finish, Kai immediately rushed to him and grabbed a fistful of his hair, slamming him to the floor. Taehyung's head smashed into the floor, causing him to be dizzy for a moment. Soon Kai's fist met his cheeks, making him snap back to realize where he was. Why the hell were you behind the school with that? Kai shouted. Taehyung smiled. How did he knew? No one saw us. No one could have. No one goes there cause everyone knows it's JK's spot. If anyone goes there, he would be beaten up for sure by him. He asked to me to meet there. He saw what happened in the parking lot, but I made sure he didn't tell it to anyone. Taehyung replied, snapping back and of course twisting the story and lying. This made Kai grab Taehyung by his collar and lift him up, putting back to him on his feet. Good. Kai walked out and left Taehyung there alone to cry. JK's point of view. It's been 20 minutes since Taehyung left. I saw him looking at his phone and he was upset before he left. I knew he was meeting Kai. JK raised his hand asking the same question Taehyung did, receiving the same answer from the teacher. He hurriedly went to the nearest washroom and saw Kai storming out to the other direction after seeing him. JK slowly walked inside the washroom and saw Taehyung sobbing. His face has bruises on the left side of his cheek. He leaned against the wall, his knees to his chest, head down, sobbing into them. JK went to him quickly and raised his head to make him look at him. Taehyung jumped when JK did that, but when he realized it was him, he quickly hugged him. Someone saw us. They told him I was with you. Taehyung's body was shaking and he sobbed once he completed his sentence. I'm sorry, Taehyung, JK said as he pulled him more closer and wrapped his hands around him. Taehyung held him back and sobbed on JK's shirt. I have to help this boy, JK thought to himself as he picked him up and brought him back to his feet. We are leaving. Is that okay? JK asked him. Taehyung looked at him almost shocked. He didn't know why. Did I said something wrong? Are you okay? JK asked him again. Taehyung, sorry, I'm just not used to being asked. He started to walk with JK and they successfully got to the parking lot. JK handed him a helmet. Once he got on the bike, JK told him to wrap his hands around JK's waist. Taehyung did that, but at first he was very cautious. Tightening his hold more as they went, Taehyung buried his face into JK's back. You are getting away from that Kim Jong-un, no matter what I have to do, JK swore to himself, holding on Taehyung's hand. Taehyung's point of view. The wind blew on my face as I rode on the back of the bike with JK. His smell blew through my nose and was comforting. We finally arrived at our house. I'm assuming it's his. It was a nice 2-story house and was actually beautiful. JK led to me to the door and we walked on. JK, no one's at home, so we will be fine, he said as we both walked up the stairs and entered the room. There were different band posters on the wall, and it was just Todd Massey, making it more homely. You can sit on the bed. I will be back, JK said and walked out, leaving Taehyung sat on his bed. Taehyung laid down on the bed and felt himself that he can sleep. It was probably because he slept next to Kai. He never slept well around him. He forced his eyes to stay open, that it would be embarrassing to just fall asleep on JK's bed. JK walked back in with a glass of water and some medicine. Here, take this, it will help you to relieve the pain, he said, handing the items to Taehyung. Taehyung took them and put them on the stand of his bed. They faced each other, both sitting with their legs crisscrossed. JK suddenly reached over and grabbed Taehyung's hand, holding them in his. JK, I will make sure he will never hurt you again, he said, giving an assuring nod. Taehyung couldn't help but a tear rolled down his cheeks out of happiness that someone is beside him. JK got worried, and without thinking anything, he pressed his lips on Taehyung's to stop him from crying, cause at that particular moment, he can't think of anything rather than doing this. Taehyung didn't stop JK as his touch made him feel something that he had never felt before, as if fireworks exploded or butterfly came alive in his stomach. Taehyung felt a feeling of getting loved by JK. Just when Taehyung heard the ringing of his phone from his pocket, realizing he was still wearing Kai's clothes, he took out the phone and saw the ID and saw it was Kai who was calling him. JK saw it as well. Speaker. Taehyung nodded and answered immediately, putting it in on speaker. They heard a lot of commotion from the other side, realizing it was probably lunchtime. Hello, Taehyung said, trying to sound calm. Who the hell do you think you are? Jack just told me that you left with that. Where the hell you are? Kai hissed through the phone. Taehyung stuttered and looked at JK, and he nodded with a polite smile. I'm sorry. Taehyung looked into JK's eyes as he said it. JK looked back confused and almost broken. Kai, meet me at my house right now, he yelled. Okay, Kai. Taehyung looked away from JK, already disappointed in himself before even speaking. Tay, I love you. I hope you are not cheating on me. You know, I will do anything for you, Kai cooed through the phone. Taehyung, I knew Kai. I love you too, he whispered as he couldn't hide what he said on the phone from JK, and JK already heard it. Once Kai hung up, Taehyung looked at JK and looked up absolutely broken. Tay, I have to go, JK. JK, he hurts you, Tay. He hits you and commands you around and make you do things that you don't want to. He leaves marks and bruises on you. He acts like a psycho when he doesn't get his way. I promise I wouldn't do that to you. I will love you so much every single day. I would do what you want to do. I promise you will always have choices with me, JK stated and held Taehyung's hand tightly. Taehyung, he loves me, and I have just been stupid. I will be okay. Thank you, though. He passed him a sad smile and walked out of his room. Taehyung went to Kai's house, which took him about 50 to 20 minutes. Taehyung knocked and Kai opened the door immediately. He pulled him into his house and dragged him to his room, making him sit on his bed. Why did you leave with him? Kai asked rudely. Taehyung, I'm not sure. I was confused, he answered and trembled. Kai, what the hell, Tae? He brought his hand on Taehyung's neck and tears prickled into Taehyung's eyes. I'm sorry, please. I love you. I'm sorry. Taehyung couldn't stop himself from repeating those things, and he started shaking in anger. Taehyung became even more scared, but there wasn't a thing that he could do. Kai started hitting Taehyung repeatedly. It seems like the punches became harder and harder. Taehyung's nose, lips, and cheeks had blood pouring out of them. Kai lifted him up and pulled him to the hall. Did he touch you? Kai shouted, making Taehyung jump. Taehyung shook, unable to answer, as fear flooded over him. Did he touch you? This time he screamed even louder. He kissed me. Taehyung sobbed. Stop, please stop, I can't. Taehyung was cut off by Kai, shoving him backward. Taehyung fell down the stairs. His head was tossed over and over. He landed, feeling a mixed feeling of dizziness and nausea. Taehyung can't even process what just happened. Kai ran down and wrapped his arms around Taehyung. Tae, wake up, baby. Taehyung opened his eyes slowly and sat up from his arms. Let me go, please. Taehyung stuttered, cause it came out almost a mumble. His head hurt too much to move quickly, but he did it anyways, cause he had to get away from him now. Taehyung shoved him off, unable to run out to the front door, because where he was stood. Taehyung ran into the kitchen, not finding any way to escape. That was the biggest mistake that costed everything. JK's point of view. I should have went to Kai's house sooner. I should have made Taehyung stay with me. I should have held him tighter and longer. I should have spoke while Kai was on the phone saying Taehyung is no longer his. I should have spoke up. Should have told someone. I should have shown Kai that Taehyung is not a toy. I shouldn't have been so stupid. JK threw back his head, sitting on the hospital chair sobbing. He didn't look at his hand due to being scared to see them covered in Taehyung's blood. It's been 2 weeks since JK begged Taehyung to stay awake. 2 weeks since his hands were blood covered. 2 weeks since JK almost lost the love of his life. I should have told him. I should have told him that he was the one. Taehyung's point of view. I was on the other side of the kitchen island, trapped by the sink and no way out. If I ran one way, Kai blocked it. I tried every technique, but nothing worked. Kai stood on the other side, grabbing a knife that was near him. Come here, baby, Kai commanded. Please let me go. I love you. We can be happy forever. Taehyung knew it was a lie. If he ever escaped, he would have to leave for once. All. Kai, you cheated? You cheated to me, he screamed. We will be together forever. We will. Kai laughed at Taehyung, holding the knife and aiming at Taehyung's body. Taehyung moved, making the knife to get missed. He tried to run, thinking maybe he will be finally free. Just then, Taehyung heard a knock on the door, and he ran until his legs were stopped though. when his hood was grabbed and was forced to fall backward. He landed on his back, only Kai's blurry silhouette come into his view. Kai's arms raised into the air, and someone was right outside the door. Taehyung could have screamed, but every time he tried, nothing came out of his mouth. Did they heard me fall? Could they knew something's wrong? Taehyung thought to himself. The knife was in Kai's hand, which raised and about to fall on Taehyung. He screamed, the only thing that came into his mind at that moment, the only reason for Taehyung to get away from this. JK, Taehyung screamed, coming back to his senses. He looked around with his blurry vision and found JK was looking with worried eyes to him, holding his hand into his. Are you alright, Tae? His voice sounded worried but happy. Taehyung, where are we? JK, at hospital. You were unconscious since that day, he replied, holding Taehyung's hand in pure happiness. The nurse present in the room immediately ran off to call the doctor. Taehyung grew confused and tried to remember what happened that day. Back to Taehyung's point of view. JK, I screamed, but it was cut off when Kai's arm fell sharp, executing pain jolted my chest. Blood choked off my throat and a stream of blood dripping down my cheek. There were multiple noises I couldn't make out clear, but some I could hear. The door flashed open, fighting as if someone was shoved and pushed. Then JK. I heard his voice. I couldn't tell it was clear. Taehyung, Taehyung, open your eyes. Look at me. Come on. You are going to be all okay. Focus on my voice. Please stay. I heard ringing JK's voice as my vision fully blurred and darkness fell upon me. Back to present. Taehyung opened his eyes slowly, looking at JK, who was looking back at him with totally confused expression. Doctor examined Taehyung. He is out of danger now, but it needs proper rest and care to recover soon, the doctor said and left the room. JK, are you okay, Tae? I thought I lost you forever, he asked worried. I'm all fine now, cause you are beside me, Taehyung replied, giving a warm smile to JK. JK, I don't want to waste any more time now. I like you, JK said, taking a deep breath. I don't know when and why, but I know with everything, this is probably the last thing you want to hear. But I just had to tell you, he added. Taehyung smiled, knowing he had secretly found that he felt the same way. I'm so glad that you were the one to save me. Taehyung lifted their interlocked hands and gently laid a kiss on JK's hand. JK blushed, held his hands tighter, but a more comforting tight. I promise I will never ever let you remind those things again. I will make you so happy, filling your life with so many happy memories and make you forget your dark past forever. JK promised to himself for Taehyung. JK's point of view. That day, when Taehyung left me without even looking back, I knew Kai was going to hurt Taehyung very badly for this. I was so worried for him, but how his mother was so irresponsible that she never knew the sufferings of his own child. The only thing come on my mind was to tell everything to Tae's mom. I quickly went to Taehyung's house and picked up his mom, saying Taehyung is in danger, and directly went to Kai's house. When we reached there, we can clearly sense the sobbing and the other noises. I banged the door, shouting Taehyung's name again and again, but got no response, so I decided to barge in and showed myself to the door with how much strength I had. And what I saw next made up slip the ground from my feet. I ran to Taehyung and wrapped his body in my arms, asking him to stay awake. But when he lost his consciousness, I got too furious as I handed Taehyung to his mom and got up and ran behind Kai, who was already trying to sneak out. I grabbed him by his collar and started throwing punches on him until he lost his consciousness. JK already informed the police so that they were on time. Kai got arrested then and there under the charges of attempt to murder.